Hey guys, this is Chris. This is my Lancer Evolution SE. Most of these videos start with some type of montage put to dance music. Since I'm a nerd, this is how I do it. This video is going to talk about what I've done to this car. When I had the car, she was completely bone stock, with the exception of an aftermarket e-brake handle and a Spirit of Competition sticker on the front left, which I immediately took off. I did get the bumper though, and the bumper was put in because I actually clipped this on a snowbank because I do drive this in the winter, and I eventually picked this up off of eBay. It didn't fit particularly well, but I did spend a local shop quite a bit of money to get this thing to fit. And then that was basically it, until recently when I dumped quite a bit of money in the car. So I'm going to go through a lot of the modifications on my car. I'm going to start with the aesthetic modifications, because that's what everyone loves, and then we're going to move on to the performance modifications. And we can see that we've had a black satin wrap done, rally armor mud flaps, and this wrap extends over into the back, and we can see some red accents there as well. But as you'll notice, the wing is here. This is the wing from the GSR, the early model MRs, but you can still see in here the original SC spoiler still there. You'll see that I've had the Enkai wheels on this car for the majority of it. They've only just recently been replaced with these 19-inch fast FCs. Those wheels have been powder coated twice. The first time, supposed to be kind of a gold, came out of a mustard yellow, didn't care for it, got them redone in bronze. Lasted a while, but powder coating, especially for wheels that I was changing constantly for the winter, got so damaged, unfortunately, that they just became so chipped. So now they're just permanently going to be my winter tires, and these are my summer tires. And I'll quickly go over the other cosmetic modifications, because I will be dedicating another video in regards to cheaper aesthetic mods that you might purchase on eBay or Wish. But we can see here I got a new badge to replace the other one. The car was obviously completely rebadged when the vinyl went on, and I did not get them reapplied. We got some vinyl protection here to cover up some damage to the bumper. We also saw some these faux carbon fiber covers, and then inside we'll see these cool little strips on the back and the front driver's seat. They're not visible from the outside, and we'll talk about that in another video as well. We've got these rain guards, and finally, Spirit of Competition sticker. Now, the other thing most people will who have driven an Evo know that it comes stock with an underplating, a plastic underplating that starts from the bumper and goes almost all the way to the back of the engine. These are not particularly well secured, and they will break. I eventually had mine almost completely cut off within 6 or 7 years. So at the same time I ordered the splitter, I also ordered an aluminum underplating. I was not aware how big this undersplitter is. This splitter goes all the way to the back of the bumper and it cuts right across, which means the guys who designed it did a pretty good job, actually, the way they put the plate and then put the splitter over top of it or underneath it. This of course means that most of the metal plating is actually covered up by the splitter, but at least I can be relatively certain in the fact that nothing's going to pop up and bounce up from the road and damage the undercarriage of my car. I'm pretty secure now, since it's aluminum on top of carbon fiber. Now the only thing you'll notice, of course, is that this and this are not straight, and you probably can't see it, but I can, and it pisses me off. This one is about 1/4 centimeter further in than this one, so this one's sticking out a little bit. If you look on the sides, you'll notice that yeah, it's a little off, and unfortunately, because of how solid it's secured to the metal plating into the car, it's impossible for us to adjust it. Anyway, when it comes to the performance mods, unfortunately I don't have very dramatic modifications. I don't have a big front intercooler with a name brand on it. Most of mine are nearly invisible, unfortunately, so they don't really show off, which is the reason why when you see under the hood, it looks kind of ugly. For example, one of the biggest and most expensive modifications in the entire car is right there. Now this, as you know, this is a dual clutch transmission because the SEs had the 6-speed. And in a previous video, I talked about how amazing this transmission is and how it is superior to the manual in almost every respect save one. Why? Well, primarily because the dual clutch transmission it shifts faster, has launch control, and has a 6th gear, which is better for gas mileage on the highway. The only thing it detracts it, which makes the manual superior, is that the manual is far cheaper to upgrade. And unfortunately, several years of racing did some wear, and I also upgraded the power on this car, so which would strain it more. But most of all, I think what I did is that I ended up accidentally putting the wrong transmission fluid in there in my early years when I really wasn't 100% aware of what I was doing, and I found out that you only run the diaqueen, you never run anything else. And unfortunately, I really didn't know that. Now I do. So we had to repair this transmission. And as we know, the experts are Cosmic in Austin, Texas. So I live in Prince George, which is thousands and upon thousands of miles away. And I'm not about to drive the car all the way down to Texas, especially with a worn transmission. So I had a local shop extract the transmission out of the car. We took the clutch basket, or that rather, they took the clutch basket out, put it into a box, shipped it to Cosmic, who replaced all of the clutch plates with their in-house brand, and slapped the whole thing together, shipped it back, and we put it back in, put diaqueen into the transmission, and it's been solid ever since. Every once in a while it gives me a little bit of grief, but beyond that, it's been a fantastic transmission. Does it shift any differently? Yes, it's a bit more forceful if I shift in lower RPM. And I love it to death. I think it's fantastic. I will still swear by these until it blows up, and I hope it doesn't, but it is a fantastic transmission. But like I said, not the cheapest option. And that cost me nearly $5,000. You count the work to extract, take it out, put it into a box, ship it. It didn't actually cost that much to get the work done, but you add all of that in, it was nearly $4,000 or $5,000. The other thing that I did from racing was that I wore out these disc brakes. So as you might have seen, these are slotted Brembo discs. I haven't replaced the actual calipers yet, and that's why you'll notice that they're a little bit worn looking, but they still work because the pads get replaced on a regular basis. But these are brand new discs, front and back. Inside, I didn't, you're not going to see a very pretty looking engine. This thing does get driven, so hasn't been cleaned in a while, something I'll be probably addressing quite soon, but we'll see here that we've got ourselves an aftermarket intake. There is another mod here, but it's kind of difficult because it's right here. So what this is, as you can see, it slightly blocks this opening, is a transmission cooler. Before I had the transmission rebuilt, I tried to see about trying to keep it cool so it wouldn't overheat so often. So I had somebody install this cooling system, which is a fan and a little tiny intercooler below the big intercooler. And if I need be, I can turn that on and cool the transmission if I am racing. And it doesn't get as much use anymore. And here is the switch they installed to activate it. And if you listen, you might be able to hear it turn on. Again. So we can see here the white line suspension and the end links right here. And these end links are solid, they don't flex. However, the most dramatic thing is going to be the exhaust, which is a turbo back exhaust, so it extends all the way from the turbo manifold all the way back to here to our exhaust. Now, what kind of exhaust is this? Well, that's an interesting story. So we'll see here that the name on this exhaust says Rocket Rally. Well, this is a turbo back exhaust. Who is Rocket Rally? Well, Rocket Rally is a garage that specifically builds SCCA Pro Rally cars, mostly for Subaru, although they have done other contracts. They do occasionally pick up street contracts off of street cars, but they do it very infrequently, and to my knowledge, they don't do it anymore. They just specifically build and maintain the SCCA Pro Rally cars. I want to say 2012, 2013, I visited them, and because because I wanted to visit and I was passing through, and the owner asked me what I drove, and I said I drove a Lancer Evolution. He joked, you drive the Enemy, and we had a quick laugh. And he said I drove an SE, and he asked what that was. I said it has all the performance mods of the MR, none of the luxuries. And they went, that's exactly what we like. Good man. The irony, of course, is I put most of those luxuries back in, like a stereo and a subwoofer and so forth, but yeah, that's beside the point. But then the guy told me, hey, you know, we were contracted to build a Mitsubishi SCCA Pro Rally car. I did not know this. Please tell me more. And the guy said, we built parts for the car, we put it on the car, and then they canceled the project. So we took the parts off, gave the car back, and that was the end of it. I'm like, oh, okay. And he says, well, we do have up in storage the original turbo back exhaust. It was never, the car never hit a rally. It was never driven with this exhaust. But if you want it, it's a turbo back exhaust, which means you'll need to do a Pro Tune. He says, do you want it? I said, hell yeah, how much? And he says, well, you could have it for $650. Yeah. And whenever I see that, a lot of people who have turbo back exhausts get really angry when they find that out. The fact that I have a rally spec exhaust in my car, which cost me in some situations a quarter of the price of turbo back exhausts on other Mitsubishis. And then I took the car to the only place that I've been told to trust when it comes to pro tuning four-wheel drives, a company called Vex in Calgary. Vex did basically the best job they did, and they were able to boost me to a considerable level, and I was quite happy with the final horsepower. They gave me an extra 60-70 horsepower. Now the funny thing is that I used to have a Vex license plate. I don't anymore. I do have a Cobb sticker, which some people may think indicates that I have a Cobb tune. I have a Cobb unit, but I don't have a Cobb tune. I have a Vex tune. That is what I've done to the vehicle. Will I do more performance mods? I'd have to come into a lot more money to justify doing more performance mods. As it is, I like where the car is at. I like the horsepower it's at. The car feels very, very good. But not only that, the power to the safety of the car is nice and balanced, where I'm not stressing the parts with the power I'm giving to it. So I'm hoping that this car will last me potentially another 10 years. We'll see. Anyway, that's my video for the mods on this car. Like and subscribe if you wish. I will talk to you guys later.